Hey guys, this is Savvy Goes Solo, here to talk about the Location Crafter, specifically the revised edition that can be found in Mythic Magazine. I am not entirely sure which volume it is, but I know it can be found in the #1 compilation, and I highly suggest you check it out. When I first found the Location Crafter, the original version, I read through it, and I read the examples, but I still was having trouble grasping the concepts, and I looked high and low for a tutorial on somebody who is playing it in real time. Unfortunately, I was not able to find that, and part of the reason I have this channel is because I'm going to put out the content that I wish I could have found, and so that's part of what this is. This is a tutorial for the revised edition specifically. This version is different than the original version. They made some amendments, they made brand new tables, they even made a new worksheet for this, although you also use the original worksheet as well. That being said, let's get into it. I'm going to show you how I use the Location Crafter in my solo and my group games, and how I use it to come up with locations on the spot. The first table that's provided is the region descriptors table here. It has 3 columns, one for wilderness, one for city, and one for structure. And they implemented this so that you can add more flavor, try to figure out exactly what your location broadly looks like. Once you roll on that, it's time to roll on the area elements table, which is right here. This is going to tell you which element is going to show up as a location. Then we have your special elements table, which even differs from the original version because they changed around some of the odds with the numbers. And then we have our random descriptors table, which has several columns, 1d100 for locations, 1d100 for encounters, and 1d100 for objects. And these are all adjectives to tell you more about what you might have rolled. I'm not going to zoom in on these because it is paid content and I do not want to inadvertently give away something for free. So we will just zoom right into our 2 worksheets that we work on here. The first one that you might notice is different is this known elements region sheet. If you remember, in the previous Location Crafter, the original, you had these category elements. You would roll 1d6 plus your progress points, and that would tell you what you've landed on. Well, here, we no longer have our custom elements. Instead, we have our known elements region sheet. Custom elements were just known elements anyway, so this is how they went about transitioning that. With your known elements region sheet, it makes it easier and more concise to fill out these objects, locations, and encounters that you definitely want to try to get your players to meet in your game. As you can see, I have chosen a haunted house, and I would have gone ahead and filled out this known elements sheet. The whole point of the Location Crafter is to be able to do everything on the fly. So even if I hadn't filled all of this out, which I don't do with my group sessions, as we come across a location or a region, I fill this out. And sometimes we fill it out together. And it's super easy. You just think, what do I want them to see here? And those answers are going to be your known elements. So I've got some locations, I've got some encounters, and I've got some objects. Important to note, don't think of encounters as combat, because that is not exclusively what they are. It can be experiences like a dripping faucet. It could be some kind of issue they have to deal with, like bats, or it could be a combat encounter, such as this haunted house's deranged homeowner. When it comes to objects, you can find all sorts of objects in a location. I like to make them things that the players either want to find or things that they can use. So that explains that. Anytime you roll a known location on the Location Crafter region sheet, you would come over to this element sheet and roll a 1d10 and you go with the option that it gives you. So let's get started, and I'll show you just how easy it is to roll up a region while you're playing. So the first thing I am going to do is I'm going to figure out some descriptors for my region, which is the haunted house. And it is a structure, so I'm going to roll 1d100 on my structure. And I'll do that a couple of times. 99 and 30. So for 99, we have roll on description tables. Okay, we'll do that in a second. For 30, we have old. And now I have to roll on the random description table for locations. Let me do that. We've got 59 and 22. For 59, I have ruined. And for 22, I have disgusting. This does not really seem like a house that I would want to be in, but it is the house that we have nonetheless. So next, we will go to our area elements table, which basically takes these options of category elements and puts a more specific percentage on whether you roll it or not, which I like. So we are going to roll 1d10 plus progress points. We have no progress points, so we just need to roll our d10s. I'm going to roll 3d10, one for location, one for encounter, and one for object. And we'll take them in order. 6, 9, 7. So first, location. So I don't forget, we've got 6. We've got 9. And we've got 7. Okay. Now I will go look at this. For 6, we have expected. For 9, we have random. And for 7, we have expected. So the difference between expected things and known things is that your known elements are going to be things that you want to try to push the narrative towards. You want these things to potentially show up in your game. If you roll an expected location, it's just a mundane place that's within the region you're in. So in our old, ruined, disgusting haunted house, an expected location would probably be an attic. Then we have a random encounter. And like I said, remember, this does not have to be combat, although it certainly can be if that is what your players are drawn towards, if that is what you like. So let's roll for that on our random tables. I'm going to roll a d100 twice, 4 and 41. Aromatic and messy. Okay. This seems like not a fun place for me. So the encounter is aromatic and messy. If I wanted to make this a combat, I could say that there's something living up here that should not be here. Or I could make it just an experience where it's aromatic because it is the smell of just a bunch of old paper and it is strewn about. Talk about a fire hazard. Old paper strewn about. And then we have an expected object. I'm going to go with an old photograph. And so there's our first location. And when you're not talking through it, you can roll it up really fast and then play out the scene. I like to have my group help me out with these things sometimes, especially if it's an expected element, or if I get a random element and I roll for the words, then I take it to them and say, there's something messy and aromatic in here. What do you think it is? And then we'll go with the best thing. But I'm very collaborative that way. If that's not your style, you can figure it out yourself. Now let's roll up a second location, see what happens. I'm going to go, actually before that, once you have experienced something in these lines, and it seems like we've experienced one thing in each, we will mark a progress point. If we had rolled none for one of these encounters or objects, we would not mark a progress point there because nothing would have happened. So let's go ahead and mark a progress point for all three. Now, next time we roll, we need to make sure to add this progress point as a modifier to our roll. Can I do 3d10 again? 4, 5, and 3. And since we have our progress points, that would be 5, 6, and 4. Okay, that's what I've got. Now I've got to find out what those things are. I take to my area elements table and I see what these are. We've got 5 for location, which is expected. We've got 6 for encounters, which is expected. And we've got 4 for objects, which is none. So we're back where we were for this one. We've got an expected location and an expected encounter. For our location, I'm going to say that the attic had an open window and the location here is a roof. For the expected encounter, I'm going to say that there are a bunch of a murder of ravens, I think they call it. There we go, murder of ravens on our encounter, and objects we have none. We play out the scene, we get our progress points for doing so. And if you'll remember, we had none for objects, so we will not add a progress point there. Then we go, we roll again. Oh, okay, this is interesting. I got 3 10s. How lucky is that? Now I need to add my progress points. And we've got 2 progress points for locations, 2 for encounters, and 1 for objects. So that makes it a 12, a 12, and an 11. Okay. That means for locations, we've got known. For encounters, we have none. And for objects, we have random. Well, it says known or random. I want to go with random because we haven't done that yet. So locations, known. When this happens, I come over to this element sheet. Known can show up in either of these columns. So this time we have it in locations. I've got to roll 1d10, and then that will tell me which of my known locations they find themselves in. 8. 8 is choose the most logical element. For me, they were on the roof. They must have come back in through the attic, and there's a bedroom in the upstairs. So I'm going to say they were in the bedroom. And since I have experienced a location from this sheet, I will go ahead and put a progress point here. It functions the exact same way as over on the other sheet. Next, we have none for encounters, and we have random for objects. When you get random, you're going to go to the random element descriptors table, and you are going to find the correct column, and you're going to roll on it. I like to roll twice. 2 and 2. I'm going to roll one more time. 2 and 89. Okay. So in the bedroom, we have something ancient and active. And this tells me that there is probably some ancient piece of machinery or a tomb or something, and it is in action. It is doing something right now. I don't know what that is. I'm not going to go too much into it because I think you get the idea. It really is whatever you make of it. The one thing that I really love about the location crafter is that it is procedural, and you can continue on. If we went into this old ruined haunted house and we found it connected into a cave system, you would then be able to copy and paste your location crafter sheet, turn this into cave system, get rid of all of your things here, and then go into your known elements region sheet, do the same, jot down some things that you might expect to find here that you want your players to potentially find, and then play through that. And it can nest as deep as you want. It can probably get to be a bit of a mess, but I still think that is really cool. Another thing to mention is that a region can be as big as an entire world or as small as like what we did as a house, or even smaller if you can figure that out. It doesn't seem to matter because you can generate infinite sheets. Anyway, that's about all I have. I hope that clears up any questions that you might have on how to use the location crafter with your players or with yourself. Let me know in the comments what other tools you really enjoy using that help your process as a GM. In the meantime, I'll see you next time.